Welcome back to another episode of the According to West podcast. Get comfortable because today we are talking about the ugliest emotion in the human playbook. We will gladly admit to others any other flaw. People will brag about having a temper. They'll admit to being anxious, depressed, or avoidant. But when was the last time you heard someone look you dead in the eye and say, I am just incredibly jealous of you right now? Almost never. Some of us would rather die than admit we're envious. Jealousy is a direct hit to the ego. To admit you are jealous is to admit that someone else has something you want and that you currently feel inferior because you don't have it. Because that feels so humiliating, we engage in massive self-deceit. We lie to ourselves to protect our pride. Self-deceit is the psychological process of denying, distorting, or rationalizing away uncomfortable truths to protect one's ego, or to avoid pain or maintain a idealized self-image. It is essentially the mind's defense mechanism working against itself, prioritizing short-term emotional comfort over long-term reality and growth. So, in this episode, we are going to unpack why hiding your jealousy is actually giving it complete control over your life. And I'm going to show you why radical truth-seeking, the simple yet agonizing act of saying, I'm jealous out loud, is the absolute fastest way to strip this emotion of its power. Jealousy is arguably the ultimate stealth emotion, because admitting to jealousy requires an uncomfortable admission of perceived inferiority or insecurity. The ego rarely allows it to operate in the open. Instead, jealousy functions like a malicious background process on a computer, quietly draining energy, distorting reality, and operating under a cloak of righteous indignation. When left unexamined, jealousy completely rewrites a person's internal script and dictates their daily actions. The jealous mind cannot tolerate the discomfort of feeling less than, so it creates a narrative to invalidate the success or happiness of others. The internal dialogue typically relies on a key few narratives. One of those narratives is the luck discount. They just got lucky. They just got lucky getting that job. They had the right connections and the right timing. If I had those advantages, I'd be twice as far. That type of mindset, this protects the ego from having to assess its own effort or strategy. Then there's the moral high ground. Sure, he got the girl, but how shallow is he? I could have that. I could have her too if I was willing to go after that type of girl. That mind frame, it rivals success as a moral failure, turning one's own lack of success into a badge of honor. And there's also the zero-sum panic, where their win is my loss. The internal dialogue treats the world as a pie with limited slices. For example, the ugly friend that finds a man that treats her right and she's engaged to get married. The jealous mom would whisper that your own chances have just evaporated. There's no way I'm going to find a good man. That's jealousy. These internal narratives inevitably leak into a person's daily routines. Jealousy creates behavioral loops that look productive or protective on the surface, but are actually rooted in resentment. When you don't admit an emotion, it doesn't go away. It just goes underground. Unacknowledged jealousy is like acid. It eventually eats through the container holding it. It slowly rots your character. You start becoming passive aggressive. You start withholding praise from people you love. You start pulling back your availability and putting up weird boundaries. Not out of health, but out of spite. You cannot practice true self-mastery if you are actively lying to yourself. Humility is the cornerstone of character, and humility requires seeing reality exactly as it is. Even when it's unflattering, when you refuse to admit you're jealous, you are sacrificing your own integrity just to protect a fragile ego. Here's the magic trick that you should always remember. Jealousy, it's like a fungus. It only grows in the dark. But the second you drag it into the light, it shrivels up. When you feel that hot, bitter sting of envy, the fastest way to kill it is to name it immediately. Call yourself out in your own head. I'm not mad at them. I am just jealous. If you want to go to the master level, you say it out loud to the person. Now, this does sound terrifying, but it's the most liberating thing you will ever do. Imagine looking at your friend who just bought the house you wanted or the car you wanted and saying, "Man, I am so incredibly happy for you. And honestly, I'm a little jealous and it makes me want to punch you in the face. But I'm not, because it's so beautiful." The second you name it, it loses all its teeth. It goes from being a dark, shameful secret to just a normal human passing feeling. It instantly diffuses the tension. Once you stop hiding from your jealousy, it actually becomes one of the most useful tools in your psychological toolkit. Jealousy is a compass. It points directly at the things you deeply value but are afraid to go after. If you are jealous of someone's creative freedom, it means you need to prioritize your own. If you are jealous of someone's physical health, it's your soul telling you that it's time to build the virtue of discipline in your own body. Instead of letting jealousy turn you into a bitter victim, let it be the blueprint of your next chapter of hard work. Take charge of your own career, do some skill building, take the necessary steps to becoming the best version of yourself. The next time you feel the sting, don't build a legal case against the person you're envying. Just try to stop the self-deceit. Admit the feeling. Smile at how predictably human you are, and then get back to building your own life. That's all for today. Keep your minds clean, tell yourself the truth, and I'll see you in the next episode.